This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
It is the Underdog Pick'em Show for Week 6 here on RosterWatch. I'm Alex Dunlap with Cody Carpentier. Man, pumped to be here today and giving out some picks for this weekend's Sunday slate on Underdog Fantasy. Remember to use promo code ROSTER at Underdog Fantasy for a 50% sign-up bonus up to $250. You can, whether you tail our picks or fade our picks is up to you, man. But it would be really helpful to us if you use that promo code ROSTER when signing up. You can scan the QR code there or just go to Underdog Fantasy and use that promo code. Again, it is ROSTER. You get a bunch of free money and you get some good picks. Cody, we were tallying up where our picks have been through the year so far. We're sitting at an even 60% with the picks that we give out on this show, and that for a limited time, we're going to be sending out to some of our email lists and putting up on the site just to keep a good record of it. We've kept the record through the season. We are so far 43-29 cumulatively with this. Trash Man and Cody are doing a little bit better than I am, but I plan on getting back on the horse this week after getting, I got swindled by 1 yard by Alan Lazard last week. But that's how it goes in the pick'em streets. If you've never played before, we just recommend taking these picks and mixing them and matching them within your entries and seeing if you can find a combo that hits. So best of luck to you with that. With that being said, Cody, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first, or should we just read out Trash Man's first because we don't have any analysis to go with those?
Yeah, let's read off Trash Man's first.
Okay, so Trash Man, he wants Trevor Lawrence lower than 229.5 passing yards, Caleb Williams higher than 20.5 rushing yards, Zay Flowers higher than 54.5 receiving yards, Tank Dell, who he famously said that you could drop on our waiver wire show this week. And I just said you can't listen to Trash Man doing this.
Within 24 hours, he freaking Nico goes.
Yeah. Tank Dell higher than 55.5 receiving yards for Trash Man, and Terry McLaurin higher than 57.5 receiving yards. Those are Trash Man's official picks. We'll go back over them again at the end, but there they are. Okay, so here are mine. And I'll give a little analysis with each one. So with Deshaun Watson, I'm taking the lower on 191.5 passing yards. And the reason is it's pretty simple. Man, Watson's just bad now. You know, he's not good. And every time
he hasn't been good.
Every time I watch him, but every time I watch him, I'm just like, I can't believe how broken this guy is, and I can't believe this is going to go down as the absolute worst deal in history, right? But even with that being said, it's like, okay, I understand that Philly has a leaky secondary at times, but 191.5 passing yards, he's only gone over that once this whole year. I mean, he's gone. Last week, 125. The week before, 176 versus the Giants. He barely got over this at 196. He got 186 versus Jacksonville, 169 versus Dallas. Why do we think that all of a sudden? I mean, I understand that the matchup is pretty favorable, but his connection with Amari Cooper looks horrible. That backup center for Ethan Posich, number 53, is horrible himself, and the offensive line has had issues staying healthy. They can't get the run game is disjointed and wacky, and I just think this is a game where we could turn it on in the second half, and we see Jameis Winston out there. So I think that just 191.5, I'm taking lower on Deshaun Watson for
This team hasn't scored 20 points in a game yet, and it's had one of the easiest schedules. I think Lombardi said, as far as strength of schedule goes through 5 games, it's the number one easiest schedule in the NFL through the first 5 weeks. Giants, Raiders, Commanders, Jags, Cowboys on defense. And the expectation that anything's going to get better with this guy is limited. I heard Charles Robinson make a comment about Deshaun Watson and him talking to an executive when he was in Houston. about some of the maturation of Deshaun Watson from a talent perspective. I advise people to go out and find Charles Robinson's Twitter and watch that video. It's very interesting perspective pertaining to Deshaun Watson and his connection with Bill O'Brien while he was at the top of his game in Houston versus where he is now and why he may be failing. But that's a conversation for another day. But I love I've already taken your lower than 191 3 times this weekend already. Some other college stuff. So
yeah, good. Oh, just as a extra college thing, these won't count as official picks. So if they go busto, like they're not going to go on the record. But you take Diego Pavia over 44.5 rushing yards, and take Quinn Ewers over 253.5 passing yards, and take Gunnar Helm over 28.5 receiving yards.
I think that Gunnar Helm one has moved. I think that thing came up from yesterday because I know we were absolutely peppering it. Yeah, it's about 34.5 now.
But I still take. I think I still take. I don't like it as much, but I think I still take that. Anyway, just in case you want to play before Sunday, this next one might be the one that I like most, or maybe the one I like second most. And this is Chris Godwin, higher than 63.5 receiving yards. It's like death and taxes. Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore getting into it, maybe even getting kicked out of a football game, but giving each other a really hard time. In these games, versus New Orleans, Chris Godwin has big games. His last 3 times versus so last year and the year before, he's played New Orleans 3 times. The only time that he missed this in the previous 3 was from 2 years back, whenever he got 63. But other than that, he's gotten 81 and 114 in these. I think the Chris Godwin here is poised for a big game. We did get word that Jalen McMillan's probably going to be playing again this week, which made me just say, maybe there's just little something there that he takes off from a pure projection standpoint. But even as it is, we're projecting him, like, even with McMillan, as like truly 16 yards clear of this. So if it were up to us, we'd have this thing set 78.5, something like that. So we're gonna take the higher on 63.5 for Chris Godwin. This one I struggle with. Jaden Reed, higher than 58.5 receiving yards, and the reason why is it looks like Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson might both play again this week. They both each logged 3 practices. So while we don't have official word, that's certainly, again, from a pure projection standpoint, that would dock the Jaden Reed play for sure. But again, it's just, even with those guys back in, he projects much better than this. Jaden Reed has been awesome in our expected points model, which admittedly does bring in data that involves the time whenever other receivers haven't been in there. But I'm just always floored by how Jaden Reed shows up in this thing as like a weekly top 12 to 15 option, and we kind of have him ranked sort of in line with that for a big game. The reason why I didn't get off it with the Dobbs and the Christian Watson stuff is because if you just look at Jaden Reed, what he does is he murders zone coverage. He's one of these guys that's much, much better against teams that deploy a heavy zone coverage attack than he is against teams that deploy a heavy man coverage attack. And Arizona runs zone. I was reading on PFF earlier. I think it's like top 12 in the top 12 in the league. So like a top 12 matchup for a guy that just murders versus zone. If you look at his zone versus man splits, and I just think, man, in a game like this, I kind of see it back and forth action. And if that's the case, it's just, 58.5 doesn't seem high enough for Jaden Reed to me. So Jaden Reed, I'm keeping with him at the 58.5. Next one. This might be the one that I like the most. Drake May, getting his first start, 26.5 rushing yards. I'm taking the higher. And this is for a few reasons. One, Drake May, one of the biggest parts of his profile coming in was that he's actually a sneaky, pretty awesome runner. He's a good runner, and with the Patriots offensive line kind of having some issues. I just foresee it where where Drake May is just going to tuck and run. I can just visualize it. I can visualize this in my head. And now Houston giving up top 4-ish, I think top 4 or top 5 numbers against quarterbacks, rushing quarterbacks. Now I will say that they played Lamar Jackson and they played Josh Allen and stuff, and that has a lot to do with it. But Caleb Williams rushed against these guys for something like 40-something yards, much higher than your usual expectation for him. And so, while it's been while the rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks by the Texans, probably a little bit skewed by outlier guys. No Ramondre Stevenson, it looks like, in this game. They're going to need to get something done on the ground. And Drake May he's a big guy. He's fast. He's more than capable of making this happen. I think 26.5 rushing yards is just a lock. So I'm going higher than 26.5 rushing yards on Drake May. And then my final one is it's Dallas Goedert less than 36.5 receiving yards. And the reason why is when I looked at the matchup tool for opposing tight ends on this slate, Philadelphia is facing a bottom seven matchup on this whole slate for opposing tight ends. So it's not a good tight end matchup anyway. They have fast linebackers that can cover. And the other reason is people have forgotten that Dallas Goedert he's been a real zilch, like a nothing burger whenever both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are both available. So I'm going to be fading Dallas Goedert this week. And if you feel a little bit weird about the 36.5, you can get it at 39.5, and it just gives you the 0.9 multiplier instead of the full multiplier. And maybe you could think about doing that. But I think Dallas Goedert goes lower than 36.5. So those are my 5 picks.
All right, I like it. I'm going to start out with one that I generally don't start out with lowers, but I'm going to go lower. Josh Allen, half an interception. The Jets have only caused 2 interceptions through the first 5 weeks. Josh Allen hasn't thrown an interception in the first 5 weeks. Generally, my brain would tell me, all right, Cody, well, guess what? It's coming this week because it's the Jets. It's a rivalry game. But I'm gonna bet on Josh Allen going another week without an interception. He's been kind of keeping the ball close to his chest. He's only got 26 pass attempts per game this year, which is 22nd in the NFL, kind of right around that, just ahead of Justin Herbert, where the cliff kind of drops off and these guys are in the 20 pass attempt per game kind of situation. So I like Josh Allen to protect that football against the Bills on Monday night. I'm going to go lower than a half an interception. The next one I like this one much more. We get Tony Pollard off of a bye week. Tony Pollard's rush attempt set is at 15.0. There's other places you can 15.5, so you're getting a little bit there. You don't have to deal with the hook. We took Ken Walker on Thursday. I didn't have this as an official one on the Thursday night show, but I talked about it, and that one came in right at 14. So worst case scenario, you do get it's a hookless 15. He's averaged 15.2 over the last 5 games. He said 16. He said 15, 16, 17, 22. And the one game where he went significantly lower was 6 against Green Bay. This is one. Was that in week 1? That was in week. What the hell was it? Week 3.
Do you not worry at all about Tyjae Spears with this one, that the usage will come back down?
I mean, we're coming off a bye and we're going against one of the worst defenses against the run.
No, I mean it's just a leaky sieve. I mean, it's clearly it's a nuts matchup.
And Levis has not been good at all. And if Tennessee wants to get this thing right, they need to establish the run early. I think they will. So I'm going to go higher. 15 rush attempts for Tony Pollard in this one. Another kind of pukey one here. It's Travis Etienne. I know we've talked, especially about Tank Bigsby last year, this offseason, this year. I think there's a number of Travis Etienne numbers out there from the receiving perspective, reception perspective. If you can find a target number, I like the targets, but rushing yards for Travis Etienne this week, 41.5. You're getting a couple yards of value here versus a bunch of other books across the space. 50, 68, 52, 44 rushing yards the last 4 games, and then the 17 burger against the Colts last week, because a lot of his work came in the receiving game. He had 7 targets last week, 6 receptions in that game, and a lot of the yards went to Mr. Tank Bigsby. but he did get the words of affirmation from the coaching staff after that game. Again, 41.5 rushing yards for Travis Etienne. We know this guy has the ability to do this on one carry. I'm just going to go ahead and say they're going over to London for 2 weeks. I think he's going to get, into this system. He's going to feel good. I think he's going to get this number again. He hit it 3 weeks in a row before that last hiccup game against the Colts. So I like Travis Etienne higher than 41.5. This number for this talented of a player, I know he's got a shoulder injury, but this number for this talented of a player should not exist when we know he can do this in one play.
I want to see what. So we have So we have ETN for 48, and
what does Grinders have?
I'm gonna go look at what Cardi has in the blitz. Cardi has him for 48. Wow. Okay. I wonder what he has Bigsby for. Cardi has Bigsby for 42. Huh. Oh, well. So, yeah, I mean, like, I trust us and I trust Cardi. Like, I think that's probably good.
What does he have Bigsby for?
42.
His number is 30. What is it? 38.5, looks like. All right. The last two I have are can be correlated. They're in the same game, so you can't use just these two by themselves because you have to have somebody from a different team. Austin Seibert, the kicker for the Washington Commanders. I like this game. It's probably my favorite game of the week. Probably going to be the one that I end up stacking the most on Sunday morning when I build my DFS lineups. Austin Seibert, the kicker for the Washington Commanders. Again, this team has been high scoring, averaging 34 points a game. 38 points per game the last 3 weeks. He had 21 kicking points against the Giants. He had 8 against Cincinnati, 10 against Arizona, 10 against Cleveland. He's been hammering all season long. Again, in a high-scoring offense, this is 6.5 is a number that's just it's too low, period. 6.5, it's 2 field goals and an extra point. I mean, do you think this team's going to score 13, Alex? Do you think do you think they're going to score potentially, 3 touchdowns and a field goal, 4 touchdowns and a field goal? I think that those things are possible more likely than not. And I'm going to correlate that with Jaden Daniels, higher than 225.5 passing yards. I think both he and Lamar are interesting. Daniels was at 225. I think Lamar's at 220 passing yards. I think they're both interesting, but the side I'm gonna ride on is Jaden Daniels because I do believe Baltimore gets ahead early, causing Daniels and Washington to fight back. The last 3 weeks, Daniels has 238, 233, 254, and he just narrowly cracked this number at 226 against the Giants back on September 15th. So technically 4 weeks consecutively over 225.5 passing yards. I think they're going to need this. Maybe hit a Diami ball downfield, maybe hit a little Terry McLaurin ball downfield. I think Jaden hits this number late fourth quarter, garbage time coming back, getting this game to a 38-35 cover in our Circa Millions contest. And it's a great weekend at Roster Watch with these amazing picks.
All right. You want to go over them one more time and just read down the list?
Sure.
I don't have it pulled up or else I would.
All right. So first and foremost, Trash Man had Trevor Lawrence lower than 229.5 passing yards. Caleb Williams higher than 20.5 rushing yards. Zay Flowers higher than 54.5 receiving yards. Terry McLaurin higher than 57.5 receiving yards. Tank Dell higher than 55.5 receiving yards. I had Josh Allen lower than a half an interception. Tony Pollard higher than a half or 15 rush attempts. Travis Etienne higher than 41.5 rushing yards. Austin Seibert, the kicker for the Washington Commanders, higher than 6.5 kicking points. Jaden Daniels higher than 225.5 passing yards. Alex had Deshaun Watson lower than 191.5 passing yards. I think we all unanimously love that one, maybe the most. Chris Godwin higher than 63.5 receiving yards. Jaden Daniels higher than 58.5 receiving yards. Drake May higher than 26.5.
No, Jaden Reed.
What did I say?
Higher than 58.5.
Yeah, Jake Reed.
I think you said Jaden Daniels. It's fine.
Jaden Reed. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Drake May higher than 26.5 rushing yards, and Dallas Goedert lower than 36.5 receiving yards.
This is Anthony Richardson. You're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to Roster Watch.